I had this woman come up to me after worship the other day and ask me where we go when we die. I don't see it as like heaven's up here and hell is down here and we're somewhere in the middle, like a Whopper, meat patty, or the stuff in an Oreo cookie or something. First of all, the idea of self. Are we still who we are after we die? And another question is there such thing as an afterlife? I guess that assumes that whatever awaits us after we die is something approximating the kind of life that we have now. Yes, there is something that happens when we die. Even the most empirically based atheist scientist would tell you that matter is not created or destroyed. So when you die, the matter that made you up, the energy that made you up, returns to somewhere. It doesn't just go away. I don't imagine me still being me, like I'm going to be Christian Piet and that there's going to be my wife and my kids and my dog Scruffy and whatever all lined up in a row ready to welcome me. And I understand that for some people that's an important concept. And the reality is that whatever awaits us, if it is of God, it's probably way bigger than any of us can imagine anyway. Imagine a drop of water. It hits the ground, it trickles into the gutter, and it goes down and becomes part of a greater river, and then it flows into a larger river, and then it eventually goes down and becomes a part of the ocean. It would be hard to argue that that water is still a drop of water. But does it still exist? Yes. Is it a part of something bigger? Yes. Has it been transformed? Yes. To me, that sort of image of the afterlife, or what happens when we die, is something that I can sort of at least wrap my mind around. We hear this question all the time. Do you know where you're going to spend eternity if you die today? Well, no, not exactly, but at the same time, do you know that eternity is happening right now? There is, by its very definition, eternity has no beginning and no ending, which means that right now is eternity. This is a part of eternity. Heaven is perfect communion, perfect unity with God, being at one with God. And for me, the reason why heaven is something that isn't necessarily attainable right now in the present, even though this is part of eternity, is because we are limited by our physical bodies. And if you want to call it sin, or however you look at it, the idea that our own confinement, our own limitations in being beholden to this physical world, these physical lives, means that we tend in some ways to choose to serve that life, to serve that body over the greater will of God. I think we have to consider where the ideas and images that we have of hell have come from. If you look back to the Old Testament, there is no such place as hell ever mentioned. Now, there is Sheol, which is considered to be the resting place where all souls who depart from their bodies at death, where they go to rest. But it is considered to be a resting place. It's a place of waiting for God to call all spirits onto heaven. But it is not a place of torment and fire and pitchforks and pointy tails and cloven hooves and all that kind of stuff. Jesus does talk more about a place that sounds more like the hell that we tend to know now. In fact, there are even references throughout the New Testament to Hades. And that's important, I think, to point out that the ideas about hell that we have in the New Testament are strongly based upon the images and the descriptions of Hades from the Greek religion, from Greek theology. To me, hell, in a matter of speaking, is what you make it. If you choose to be in a state of complete separation from God, that is your personal choice. God allows us that choice. As God allows us to choose to be in communion with God and with one another, we can also choose to separate ourselves from God. And that is the only thing that I understand that can separate us from God, which is ourselves. And so the only thing then that can create hell, which is separation or absence from God, is us. I think we all have to choose the reality of how we imagine God, how we imagine heaven, how we imagine where we go or what happens to us after we die. We have to come to a place of peace with that, and we have to also recognize that just because that's how we imagine it, that's probably not 100% exactly the way it's going to be. If we find some comfort in imagining things a certain way, that's cool. And I think the whole fact that we're given a brain to think for ourselves and a sense of creativity and wonder and mystery, and even the ability to think about what might happen when we die, and to think about the future, and to think about a reality beyond this life, is a gift from God. And as we are given the creativity and the latitude to make of this life what we can and what we choose, with or without the presence of God within it, I think we're also given the creativity and flexibility to imagine what it's going to be like other than in this physical present life. For me, a God of love, a God of compassion, a God of grace, whose very foundation is in the creation of a universe based in love, is not going to get so hung up on the details that if you've guessed wrong, it's not like Monty Hall is going to come out from behind door number 3 and tell you screwed up. Instead, God makes room. God makes room for us where we come to God and how we come to God. In all of our flaws and our weaknesses and our limitations, God takes us as we are. Jesus says that this isn't really the kind of stuff that we need to be worrying about, that there's enough for us to take on just trying to live this life the way we're supposed to, and that the rest will take care of itself. His advice? Do the best we can to live the life we think we're called to live. Do the best we can to follow His example and to learn from His teachings. The rest, as I've said before, is way above our pay grade.